in Every Moment Matters, you point out that the single greatest factor that affects performance is state of mind, and I think it goes without saying that generally the state of mind of a team or an athlete generally reflects that of the coach. Can you describe what I guess maybe the optimal state of mind is for a coach?
For a coach, I mean, I think in a practice environment, let's start there,
Sure.
right? It's focused, organized, and prepared. It's free of all the other distractions of your life, right? So, got to show up to the rink, and whatever's happened in your day, whether your day job is bad, you're in a fight with your spouse, you got, cut off in traffic on the way there, and you're angry at that guy. Um, you have to let it all go, right? And so you have to show up with this sort of blank slate. Um, and I think another great state of mind as a coach is sort of, as they say in martial arts, the white belt mentality or the beginner's mind. Like as soon as you think you know it all, that's when you're in trouble, right? And so having this idea that I don't know it all and I'm always opening and how can I make this better and how can I improve? I mean, the coach that's still doing it the same way she was or he was 20 years ago is falling behind, right?
Yeah.
The games are changing the needs of the athletes. The children who are in front of us are changing the way that they're raised and their attention span and all that. So, we don't, we everything changes, everything adapts. You have to keep changing. So I think a coach lets that go. I think also in general, right? So many people who coach, and I would say myself as well, if your playing career doesn't end maybe the way you envisioned it, right? You got
Yeah.
injured, you got cut, you lost, maybe you're good enough and didn't get another contract as a pro, maybe you got injured in college, maybe you didn't make it to college, whatever it is, you bring baggage with you, right?
It's a great point. Yeah.
You bring baggage with you, and oftentimes that baggage comes out in a negative way, right? Whether you jump into practice and you're way too competitive, whether you bring this attitude of, why don't you care as much as I did, or if I only had all the advantages you did, I'd have been in the NHL or whatever, right? And so oftentimes we never come to terms as a coach with why we're not playing anymore, and that doesn't always make for a healthy coaching, you know and so that ability to sort of recognize and work through that baggage however you need to work through it. Maybe the baggage is so severe that you need to do it in therapy. Maybe you can just talk it out with someone. I don't know, but if you don't if you bring that bag to your practices, it's going to take you years to get over.
I think it's a really good point, you can also see the challenges because I mean we're all involved in this because we have an emotional connection to the game, and I don't necessarily think the right answer is like that. That can be really powerful as well, right? And helping kids discover that emotional connection in a healthy way that they're passionate and want to continue to play it and enjoy the process of being around their friends and teammates. Is there a line there to just I guess that you advise coaches to walk on, sort of on one hand being, hey, like we want kids to feed off that positive energy, but we also want to guard against stepping over that line and all of a sudden creating a negative experience for the kids because it's you're, as you said, bringing your own baggage into the arena.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not going to be perfect as a coach, right? You're going to always be towing the line between some days I have good days, some days I have bad days, some days I lose my temper for a good reason, and some days I lose it for a bad reason, and whatever. So, it, I mean, I think if you always come back to sort of some basic ideas, right? Number one, and it was like part three of Every Moment Matters, which is what does it feel like to be coached by me? Right? Would I
Yeah.
wanna be part of that practice I just ran? Would I wanna be part of this team? Um, I I don't think people think about that often enough. I don't think they think about that, right? Like, So I like practices when I'm like, I watch a coach run a practice, be like, man, I wish I was a player in that practice. I'd have got
Yeah.
better. I would have been challenged. I would have been smiling. I would have been competing. Um, and when I see practices that aren't like that, the kids probably feel the same, So
Totally.
I think, yeah, so I think that's part of it. So what does this feel like? And then I don't know. I think I have my own kids now who are teenagers and almost done with high school. But I think I had a really big shift as a coach when I had my own children. And,
For sure.
at that point, I thought of, well, people will trust me because I was a good soccer player or whatever. Right. But then you have your own kids, you realize like that has nothing to do with it. Right. This is the most important thing in my world, my child. Trust isn't just about whether you can skate fast or shoot the puck or you're
Yeah.
strong or fast or where you played or who you are. Trust is about how do you treat my kid, and are you believable, and are you dependable, and are you connected? Do I think you have my kid's best interest in mind? That's trust, right? And trust is the bedrock of great coaching player and great coach parent relationships. And I think we have a lack of trust right now because coaches have sort of pulled away from parents, and parents break the trust a lot by acting out when they really shouldn't. And I think the coaches who get it are the ones who just work really, really hard to engage parents, build that relationship, see the kids, let the parents know they're seeing the kids, all that sort of stuff. I think that's the key.
How do we educate coaches on that? Because everything you just said, like, it would seem to me like that doesn't happen by accident. Like, that needs to be intentional. And For example, we've had woman, Dr. Jody Carrington, on the show, and she talks about what she calls the light up moment. And she's like, coaches need to be intentional when that first interaction you have with a child when they come to the rink or the field is so important. Like, that kind of sets the table for the day. But she's like, you need to, when you're driving to practice, you need to be mindful of that that's coming up. And some kids, their light up moment, they're not going to want a lot of energy. They're going to want you to be, maybe go sit beside them and be a bit more subtle. Some kids are going to want you to announce to the whole team that, you know, Tommy just showed up. But how would you recommend coaches go about? Because it sounds like what you're saying is just like we would map out our seasonal plan from, practice planning and X's and O's and so forth, that we almost need to build in a framework for how we're going to tackle that engagement and keeping everybody aligned.
Totally. It should definitely be part of the engagement, right? And that planning has macro and micro phases to it as well, right? I don't know what terminology you might
Yeah.
use in hockey, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, we talk about macro cycles and micro cycles and things like that. Well, I have to have a season plan about how do we create this culture and this feeling around the group. What does it feel like to walk into the rink every day, all year long? What are the things that the coaches are bringing every day? The passion, the joy, the competitiveness, the family atmosphere, right? That's the overlying thing that we build and we come back to. But then there's the micro parts, right? And the micro parts are just how do I see every kid, right? And if I have two assistant coaches and you know 25 kids, we're splitting up those kids and making sure does every kid get a comment every day or at least every week, right? That I'm working my way through and I'm looking at the list going, man, I haven't said anything to Aaron in a while. I got to really catch him being good. I got to give him some one-on-one teaching time, right? So we call these rule of one moments, right? One person, one comment, one time. Um, that can fuel a kid, that can fuel a pro for a long time. Just saying, I trust you and I believe in you, and so those are the micro things. I think when we're working with youth, um, taking that micro thing and bringing the parents into the loop, the way that I'll do it is, via an email or a team communication tool. I'll send it and I'll say for Aaron, right, and I'll send a note to you for you through your parents so that I know they're going to read it,
Yeah.
right? and then I'm giving you some words of affirmation or to get your chin up that it's okay that you made a mistake and this is the progress you've made, and show up with the same great attitude or whatever. That tells a parent like, yeah, he sees my kid, right? And it also, the kid, when I do that, like so many parents would be like, you should have seen the smile on his face when he read that, right? And so oftentimes, just like any gift, right, an unexpected note at an unexpected time is very impactful. A note at a time of great emotion, whether high or low, is incredibly impactful. And so being aware of when those moments are and trying to do that, I mean, it's super important as a coach to do. And then what you're also doing is you're putting, if we think of trust as a bank, you're making deposits of
Yeah.
trust with your players, deposits of trust with their parents. And I'm not saying that, if you're in coaching long enough, someone won't empty their account all at once because they will, and they'll bail and you'll be like, wait, what just happened there? But they're more likely, the more deposits there are, the more likely in a situation that I come to you and say, hey, Aaron, you've been so good to my son. But man, the last couple of days, he says you've been super hard on him or something. Is anything going on that I should know about? Right. Um, that because you've built up trust with me. Right. So I have to build that. I have to earn that. Um, and that's coaching. And this goes back to, how do you measure that in a coaching course? You really can't, but that's coaching, right? And then you build up that trust, and that's when I push, and that's when I make people uncomfortable, by saying, do more, you got more in you. And that's when they have these breakthroughs. And that's when 10 years later they call you up and be like, hey, would you like to come to my wedding? You were like a life changer for me. And that's coaching.
If you are involved with the Minor Hockey Association that hosts tournaments or multiple tournaments, or you're a coach who operates spring tournaments, or any organization that puts on events, then you're going to thank me for introducing you to Event Connect. Event Connect makes managing and growing your sports events simple and efficient. It literally covers every aspect of the event management, from scheduling, linking out of town teams or visitors with hotel bookings, to capturing registration fees and collecting additional revenue, all on one platform. Best of all, it's free. Event Connect receives a small fee through its payment processor, but there is no upfront investment. I got introduced to Event Connect because several of our league and association partners began using them and raved about the time it saved, how user friendly it was, and the additional revenue they were able to generate. In fact, the feedback was so positive, we began using Event Connect to host TCS Live, our annual coaching conference at the University of Michigan. It was a great decision. I know firsthand how stressful it can be to run tournaments and events, and can't imagine going through that process again without Event Connect. If you want to simplify the process of organizing your tournament or event and tap into new revenue, then go to eventconnectsports.com to book a demo today. Don't go through the painful process of trying to run your next tournament without Event Connect. Go to eventconnectsports.com and get started now.